Do you ever find yourself wishing you had more room on your smartboard, like more space to write?
Like on the board itself?
Yes.
No, that's usually sufficient.
Oh, okay. And then, how is it with do you let your students use your smartboard as well, or is that just your smartboard? No one else touches it.
I do sometimes. It depends on the activity that we're doing. If we're collecting data, sometimes I just have students come up and do it, or play with things and adjust them. I don't do it most of the time because it's time consuming.
Use your smartboard on a daily basis for class.
All the daily notes that I do are on the smartboard. So anytime I give out a handout, I usually have the same thing on the board. So they can see on their paper exactly what I'm doing and follow along with what I'm doing. Usually at the end of the day, I will take the notes that I've saved on a smartboard file and then save it and then put it up on Blackboard so that students can see it. If they miss something or if students are absent that day, they can go back and refer to that. So that's the Smart Notebook. I also use my computer and I project if I'm doing other activities or if I'm using other software. I use Geometer, Sketchpad, and Fathom a lot for my math classes. And it's good for just being able to show stuff on the board and to move things around.
And then you said you don't use a eraser normally. It works just as good if you use your hand.
Yeah, the smartboard actually lets you calibrate the different thicknesses that you're using on the board, so you can set it so that when it has something that's relatively thin, it recognizes it as a marker. If it's a little bit thicker, it recognizes it as a finger, so I can use my finger to move stuff around or to scroll. And then if it's thicker than that, then it assumes you're trying to use an eraser. So I can erase stuff using the side of my hand or the palm of my hand, instead of having to stop and pick up an eraser to do it.
And then, what do you find your students like to use more on a daily basis?
I think my students find that using the smartboard is more fun because of the novelty of it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll get an airliner, which means that I can take the tablet to them at their desk, and then they can write it down right on the board from their desk. They don't actually have to physically get up and walk over to the board. And that I feel is a little bit nicer too, because then you don't have to stand up in front of everybody and do things. So it's a little less intimidating.
Okay, go.
So the smartboard, this is kind of a general knowledge question, but the smartboard can't take any water or liquids hitting it, right?
I've never tried, but I'm assuming that would be a bad idea.
Oh, okay. And then to clean, you just wipe it off and it gets perfectly white. That seems like a plus.
Okay, go.
All right, the first question we have to ask you is: do you ever find you having technical difficulties with your smartboard?
Nothing that it doesn't resolve itself within a day or so.
Okay, and then so you have to calibrate your smartboard every time you use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then how long does that normally take?
To calibrate it?
Yeah.
About 30 seconds.
Do you know how much the smartboard costs, or was that all school funded?
It was school funded. I did not pay for my smartboard.
Do you ever use your whiteboard? Or
Yes.
Is that just for,
I'll use my whiteboard. You can probably tell there's still eraser marks on it.
what do you normally use your whiteboard for?
Anytime I'm doing something that's not easily done on the smartboard, or if I need something to stay up, because on the smartboard you can only see so much at a time, and I'm scrolling. So if I'm on the next page, or if I've scrolled down, you can't see something anymore.
Excuse me. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. What's up, buddy?
What do you think about, if, since the smart boards, they require a lot of cables in order for to make it work, and those cables are always all over the floor. Do you think that, that's kind of a
That's a
kind of
safety hazard.
hassle?
Yeah, that's a safety hazard right there. People could.
What do you think about the calibration? Apparently you have to really perfect that, and you really have to get the dot at the center all 6 times. And a lot of times teachers always mess up and they have to recalibrate over and over and over again. Do you think that's also kind of taking precious lesson time?
Well, you see, the calibration, it's very complicated. It requires a lot of thought, okay? And
It's pretty simple, but you really have to do it well in order
not
for
a
it
lot
to
of
work.
people can do it successfully,
Not all the time.
and that's a safety hazard.
Well, apparently, here's a counterclaim. Teachers say that, well, someone would say that, using the smartboard's probably easier because, when you write your notes down, you can save them, so you can use it for other classes, so you don't have to rewrite them later. So, how are you gonna do that?
Well, that is easier if the teacher knows how to use it. One thing that I've experienced is that some teachers will like have a hard time dragging and dropping or just writing in general. Dragging and dropping or just writing in general. And that slows the class down instead of making it easier. It is, if the teacher knows how to use it, it's easy. But if they don't, it's just more difficult for everybody. And also when the teacher's writing down the information, they can see something where they messed up, whereas if it's just copy notes from a smartboard, they have to like cross it out and then basically use it as a whiteboard if they find a mistake.
Smartboard says that, when it's on, it has that little green light. And sometimes when it's not on or when it's not on correctly, it shows that little red light. How many times have you seen that and the teacher's having to fix it, and how many times you struggle trying to figure out how to fix that?
I've seen teachers struggle with that a couple times just because I don't think they're trained well enough to fix it on their own, and then they have to call someone like Mr. Mango down to their classroom, and he has to go through and fix it. But generally, I have not seen that. But when it does happen, it takes up much of class, and teachers do end up